Remember the nerve-wracking and gut-wrenching feeling when you were preparing for tests in high school? I think most can agree with me when I say that the worst of these was probably the ACT. If you're not familiar with the ACT, it's a standardized test that you usually take to get admitted to college. It measures raw intelligence in 4 categories: English, reading, math, and science. The ACT is one of the most stressful tests because you're usually told that it determines your future. Although this isn't entirely true, most teachers prepare students all of high school for this and for their future and beyond. I think that too much pressure is placed on the ACT because there's much more to a student than just a single number. There's too much pressure on the ACT when determined for school because the ACT only measures one kind of intelligence, it doesn't consider any variables, and it doesn't present the accurate, well-roundedness of a student. First, the ACT only measures one kind of intelligence. This means that it doesn't touch on other subjects besides the most important 4 subjects. This means that it doesn't touch on the arts, sports, creativity, music, and others, which these categories that I just mentioned may be strong suits for other students, although they won't be tested on them in the ACT. Students study only certain subjects for the ACT, which means that they won't be getting a liberal arts education. When it comes to college and jobs, it's important that you're not only book smart, but you're also street smart. Not being able to talk about news or current events can sometimes even make or break a job or getting an interview. If you're not a good fit for the company, they won't care if you scored a 36 on your ACT. There's so much more to intelligence than just being able to read fast or finding X in an equation. These questions are irrelevant in the real world for the most part. And although employers prefer smart employees, being able to answer these questions won't necessarily affect your ability to complete tasks at work or being like a hard worker for your company. Second, the ACT doesn't take variables into consideration. When your score is viewed, they only see a number belonging to a name. They don't see the variables that go along with it when you took the test. Perhaps someone got a higher score because they were lucky, even though they didn't study very much, or someone scored lower because they were anxious and nervous about taking the test. There are many variables when taking tests, but unless you are eligible for these accommodations, they aren't really considered when they see your score. I took the ACT one time and was very ill. I was shaky, I had a mild fever, I was actually wearing like 4 layers because I was so cold, and I was blowing my nose throughout the entire test, which was probably very distracting. This meant that I couldn't focus and I couldn't perform the test to my best ability. Schools don't see this, however. They don't see how much I prepared for the test, only to be disappointed when I was really sick. I needed every second for that test, but I was so sick that I couldn't focus. Another variable for taking tests is test anxiety. Because there's so much pressure placed on tests such as the ACT, I know many people that have test anxiety, and they freeze up during tests, which is really unfair because some other people don't suffer from this. Test taking requires strategy, and not everyone shows intelligence best by taking tests in these situations. It's unfair that this isn't understood more because some people just aren't the best test takers. Lastly, the ACT is not a good representation of a well-rounded student, which is sought after in today's world. Today, just being smart doesn't cut it. Employers are looking for hardworking, charismatic, leading, intelligent young people to represent their business. The ACT doesn't represent this type of student. Instead, I think the GPA does a much better job. It shows how challenging the classes that you took were in high school, your work ethic, so how hard you worked in these classes, and teachers' comments on your personality and characteristics. This is a much better measurement and tells more about a student than just a number. It also helps employers to know more about you too. The ACT measures raw intelligence, which some are just born with, but others might work just as hard or even much more harder and not receive a similar score. Overall, pressure placed on the ACT for high school students is completely unnecessary. Colleges and admissions should stop relying so heavily on ACT scores to determine admittance and look more at a student's work ethic and personality. This is because the ACT is one kind of intelligence. It doesn't consider other variables, and it doesn't present the accurate well-roundedness of a student. My dad always told me, when I was struggling with the choice of where to attend college, that it's not where you go, but it's what you do once you get there.